called my dad and said, hey, not liking it. This was a mistake. Me and cruising, we're not going to be friends for a long time. Suck it up, son. You got to do it. You signed up for it. You have to do it. So that's what I did.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Janet Bava, and I am so excited for today's episode. I know I've spoke about it for quite some time, and if you've watched prior episodes, you know how excited I am to finally have our one and only President Chris Prelog here with us today. Hi, Chris. Welcome.
Hi, Janet. So excited to be here. I cannot even begin to describe how excited I am because I have a secret for you.
Oh my God. Here we go. We already started. Yes.
This is my very first podcast.
Ever?
Ever.
Ever, ever?
Ever, ever.
No.
This is my
I don't believe that. Madeline, fact check that. Let's search for him online.
Yes. And I have prepared a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
So
it doesn't work that way, but it's okay. We don't have rules. It's 180 degrees from ordinary. So maybe, yes, you can ask questions back.
Okay.
But I'm so happy that you're here because I actually kept a little secret from you as well.
Okay.
And that was about a month ago, we came down and we recorded a pilot podcast. And that was just to get practice for this actual interview.
Oh, cool.
And so we are dedicating a full episode because I've actually asked our Yacht Club members online lots of questions. So we have lots of questions for you. Our Yacht Club members have lots of questions for you. So get ready.
Okay.
First one.
All right.
Tell me how it all began. So obviously this is not your first rodeo, but tell me the story of how it all began, and I mean your career to become president of Windstar.
Oh, wow. Well, it's a couple of weeks ago now. But it was really, and I think you've had Peter on the show here as well, or will have, Peter Tobler, who's actually introduced me to cruising way back in 1998. And I sort of got really I wanted to leave Austria basically. And so I was like, okay, I couldn't become an airline pilot, which is what I wanted to first. And I said, I still want to see the world. And so he introduced me to the concept of cruising. And at January of 1998, I joined the Legend. And that was my very first trip in Sydney, Australia.
And the Star Legend is the one right behind us here as well.
Exactly. And so just to put this in perspective, this was my longest flight I've ever taken. I mean, I felt like I was in the air for 3 weeks because it's just such a long flight from Austria to Australia. And arrived there, was just completely mesmerized by the friendliness of the Australian population. And I mean, I had 3 friends on the flight because you sit a long time in a plane and you make friends over time. And they showed me Sydney, and you arrive a day earlier, then went on to the ship the next day, was seasick for 2 weeks, basically. Tasmanian Strait, not a good first cruise. So I was seasick because the ship was moving quite a bit. But eventually got out of that and started working on board, and it was an absolute disaster. So it really was. I was just so lost in everything. First of all, English I wasn't very good at it. And then there was, all these new things which I'd never seen. I mean, I was working as a waiter, and the guest asked me, can you bring me a bagel? And I'm going to my supervisor and say, hey, what's a bagel? And that got me promoted into the dishwash, which I actually enjoyed a lot. For 2 weeks, or 2 months actually, I was in the dishwash, and you get to know the ship there, right? You know everything, what's going on, and made lots of friends, and eventually came back out and was allowed to be around guests again after lots of training.
Polish your English.
I polished my English and cutlery.
You learned what a bagel was.
I know what a bagel now is, yes. And all the other things, right? And so I had lots of testing I had to do. So I had to learn all these things. And so I really didn't like it in the beginning. And so I called my dad and said, hey, not liking it. This was a mistake. Me and cruising, we're not going to be friends for a long time. And in typical fashion of my dad, I said, well, suck it up, son. You got to do it. You signed up for it. You have to do it. So that's what I did. And but then I said, okay, I'm going to finish this contract, but I'm going to look for something else afterwards. But I wanted to make that real firm decision, and I'm very structured in that way. I'm gonna make that decision in Tahiti. So there was a thing when you learn the guest names, which is also what we do, right?
Right.
And you have a lot of accomplishments with a high guest name count. You get a lunch off, and that's a big deal, right? So I learned all the names and always had lunch off, and I picked my lunch off in Bora Bora, and I said I'm gonna go to the beach, and that's where I make my decision. And most beautiful, most amazing thing. And that's when I fell in love with Tahiti, and I made my decision. Yeah, no, it's not that bad. I'm gonna stick around for a minute, and so then eventually learned all the ropes on our ships, and various positions. And in the early 2000s, they promoted me into the office, right? And these ships were seaborne before, so in 2014, when Seaborn decided to sell them to Windstar, I remember talking to our president and said, okay, on the Legend handover, I just want to be on board. I'm going to cry in a corner somewhere because the Legend is just so close to my heart. And I was actually in Genoa during the handover period. There was so much love in that ship.
Yes.
But what was really, really special for me there is I saw the Windstar team come on board, and they were so energized. They were so happy. They were so enthused by taking on that ship. And I was like, wow, this is a cool company.
Yes.
And so we handed over the Legend, and a couple of years later, in 2016, I got a call and said, hey, you want to work for Windstar? And it sort of worked itself out, and I started there and was looking after the fleet, was back
Yeah.
on the Legend. And then 4 years ago now, became the president. So
During the pandemic.
during the pandemic, yeah, because that was a good time to become a
Right.
president, apparently.
Yes. And I think that's absolutely phenomenal, because when I met you, I remember people telling me that they thought you were absolutely crazy, that, who takes over a cruise line in the middle of a pandemic? Only Chris would.
Yeah, my best friend from Austria called me, who have worked in restaurants in Austria, and he said, are you nuts, Chris? I mean, this is a suicide commando. And he said, well, if you don't make it, you just can come back home and I'll give you a job and it's fine. I said, no, it's cruising is always all about like different things. And it's also what's so, it's actually for the crew, for the officers, and for the guests. Every day is somewhat different.
Yes.
And that's what sort of made me really attached to cruising. And I think loyal guests do the same thing. They just like it because it's different every
It
day.
is. Now, I'm going to unpack a lot of what you said, because there's a lot of things that I want to actually ask you about in your story. And we're going to start with Tahiti.
Yes.
So we actually call you Mr. Tahiti around in the office. And that's because every chance you get, one, you're either talking about Tahiti and why it's so amazing, you're selling it to somebody,
Yep.
or two, you're visiting Tahiti. And so tell me, what really is, what does Tahiti mean to you?
Well, Tahiti is I really believe that is my core of what cruising means to me. It's really where I go back and said to myself, oh, I understand it now. So it's where I go back to, and where my love for cruising really ignited.
Yes.
And so I enjoyed Tahiti. I mean, yes. I mean, there's this old saying, the first time you go to Tahiti is because of the beauty of the islands and the water and the landscape. Every subsequent visit, you go there because of the people, because of the culture, because of, what you experience there is, and just the authenticity of the people. That's what catches you. And so Tahiti is really the core of what I do. And yes, I enjoy selling cruises to Tahiti. I love talking about Tahiti, and I have so many friends there now as well. And even the former president of French Polynesia says, like, well, just let us know when you move here, right? And even my boss, Andy Todd, would say, oh, you're not in Tahiti, when he calls me, because he's like, many times he calls me and would say, oh, you're in Tahiti. And I said, yeah, I am.
And I have a lot of stuff to do in Tahiti. But so talking to the listeners and those viewing here, why Windstar in Tahiti? Because I do know, and what I've learned about is that no one does Tahiti like Windstar does. And very soon we'll have two ships. We'll have the sailboat and we'll have the beautiful Star Breeze sailing these waters and offering guests, options on how they can experience this beautiful destination. And so can you tell us a little bit about what is it about Windstar and how we do Tahiti that should be to me, I have some ideas of what you're going to respond, but I want the listeners to hear from you as to, why should they sail Tahiti with Windstar?
Yeah, I want to go back to my very first cruise on Windstar. I said to the director of marine operations at that time, I would like to go to the core product of the company. Where is the product really at its core? Because that's what I wanted to look at first. And he said, hey, let's go to Tahiti. And I said, okay. So January 11, 2017 came around, my first cruise on the Wind Spirit. I arrived in Tahiti. Again, the smell, the whole vibe of the island, I was already in love, right? So I go on board this beautiful small sailing yacht. And we're sailing out of Papiete towards Moorea. And I remember I've done that before, right? On the motor ships. And there was something where I immediately grasped like, oh wow, this is very special. But as I was progressing through the cruise, what I learned and immediately found out was the combination of the laid-back atmosphere of Windstar Cruises, the crew, the officers, and how they interact with the guests is a perfect match for Tahiti, because the Tahitian culture is open, inviting, non-pretentious, very not at all formal, and they just love for people to come to Tahiti and show them the beautiful islands. And so, and we're part of this. We've been on a cruise where, people would tell us, oh, Windstar's in town, it must be Wednesday, right? Because we're such a part of the society there. And they give their love back, and our guests are feeling that. Whether you're on a motor ship or on a sail ship, our guests are feeling that Windstar is not just a cruise line sailing Tahiti. Windstar is Tahiti.
Yes, absolutely. And I think also for me, the French Polynesia is such, an iconic destination. People, they think about it as being so far away when it's really not. It's an 8-hour direct flight from LA.
Yeah.
And then once you're there, to be able to sail through the islands of the French Polynesia, Bora Bora, Moorea, all those, even the Marquesa Islands that you can go to, and do that with the convenience of these beautiful ships. And you can continue to mention the crew. The crew does a phenomenal job of delivering an experience. And I think that's one of the biggest differentiators I see at Windstar. I think you've mentioned the crew. If I were to count how many times in the last 20 minutes, you've probably mentioned them about, 15 times. And I think your admiration for the crew, because you were once a crew member, is absolutely spectacular. And the way that you make decisions in the office, thinking about the crew first, is really something that's very unique and that I haven't seen in my entire career. And it's really, really special. So can you tell us about what sets the Windstar crew apart? Because I think they're beloved. And for those who've never sailed with Windstar, I think I would love them to hear from you.
Yeah, I think there's an element of freedom our crew has in terms of how they interact with our guests. They're genuinely trying to see and learn who our guests are. And so then we allow them to use their own authentic way. So we're not telling our crew like, good morning, you say in this way, right? Or goodbye, you're saying in that way, which, many luxury brands have that nailed down to the absolute core. But I think at Windstar, all our people are, because why Windstar is so different is because everyone is allowed to be themselves.
Yes.
And I think that is a piece which really shines at Windstar. We're not, putting lots of procedures in front of them, how the interaction should work. We're basically saying the guests should have a great vacation time. Yes. The crew has an interest in learning, what our guests like. And I just met Bill Hare on the windsurf yesterday, right? And, they put a sign on one of the on one of the deck chairs, right, where Bill Hare sits, and said Bill Hare deck chair, right? And I put a post-it on it. Chris was here, and
I love
and
that.
he called me afterwards. I was like, "Oh, I saw your note," and so on, and so it's really really special. But the the guests, really the interaction between guests and crew and officers, but also I believe between the employees in the corporate office and our guests,
Yes.
we have a very strong relationship. And this is a relationship business. That's what I learned on board,
Yes.
and like any relationship, you have amazing moments, right? And also, you have moments where you need to do better or something went
Right.
wrong or
Something
what
went
have
wrong.
you, right? But understanding that part, and our crew, I think, does a really great job. I mean, the amount of hugs I gave yesterday on the surf is like everyone's like really, really happy. Um, that's something I cherish at Windstar, and it goes back to when I was promoted first time into the office. We had this amazing hotel general manager. I hope Ricky you're watching, because Ricky Collinson was a hotel general manager who was the last one I worked with before I was moved into the office, and he was a very experienced hotel general manager, and he said, "Son, don't forget in your first day in the office what it's like to work on board."
Mm-hmm.
And he always said a lot of smart things, but that was really important. It shaped me because I was like, okay, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna help it. And so everything I do is sort of, trying to figure out how can the crew or the officers deal with it, because we have to evolve our product. We have to be continuing to innovate,
Right.
and we have to make sure the crew can help us do that. So having the conversations on board as to what works, what doesn't work is important. Listening to our guests, what are their questions? What do they want to see? That helps us to sort of form the Windstar product.
And that positive energy that our crew has, I think it's absolutely a reflection of your leadership and the team's leadership to really focus on making sure they're happy. Because, I mean, they're the ones dealing with guests sometimes, like arriving from St. Martin and having a challenging situation at the airport. And so our guests are arriving frustrated and they're, this negative, tired energy is arriving to the ship, and they're responsible for turning that negative energy and making it positive again and ensuring that the guests have a fabulous time on board. And you can't do that unless you're treated well as an employee and as a crew
Yeah,
member.
it's so important. I mean, as we walked the surf the last weekend, we went also to the crew areas,
Yes.
and there's a new crew recreation room, new video room, and they wanted a crew gym, and so they showed me the spaces, and I said, "Oh, well, we gotta, upgrade the TV and put some really good equipment in there."
Yes.
To me, that's important because the crew lives there.
Mm-hmm.
They live there every day for however long the contract is, and that's their home. We've got
Yes.
to look after that, right? We are sort of wanting to make sure we look after the crew areas. It's like mom and dad at home. They're gonna look after the children's room too,
Absolutely.
right? And so, and I think the team has done a really good job on them.
So speaking of the surf, you were just on board. I was going to ask you what was the last ship you were on board, and you've just answered that, the surf.
Yes,
So tell
yesterday.
me, yes. And so I think that's wonderful. I know she's gone through a whole dry dock, and the fact that you mentioned the crew, the crew updates that were done. We don't just take these ships into dry dock and remodel them for the guest facing, but we also take care of the crew and making sure they're comfortable in their staterooms and their facilities are upgraded. So tell me about the surf.
Well, surf is always special. I mean, it's our flagship, right?
Yes.
So it's like, first of all, I want to say I took the elevator.
Okay, all
I-
elevators functioning, everything's
It's all good. I was sniffing out the whole ship. So
good. I'm glad.
it's all good. But I will tell you, I spoke to the captain and I spoke to Bill Hare, and a couple of crew members, of course, as well. The feedback is phenomenal.
Yes.
The spaces, honestly, China, you have to see it.
I
because
can't wait. I still have not
it's
seen the surf.
it's so cool. You have to imagine the yacht club, the shop, the amphora, the main lounge are all redone. So
Beautiful.
basically, the entire public rooms, public deck have been redone, but they have been done in such a way it's very modernized. has this yacht feel, but it's so comfy. It has this immediate comfortable feeling. And then you put that together with our cruise, welcoming approach. It's like, oh my God, I didn't want to leave. I had to leave because you sold out the ship. So
Thank
it's
you very
like,
much, everyone, because I mean, she is the favorite ship of the fleet,
I
the
tell
Surf.
you, it's so beautiful. And then, no, I have to say, the big suites.
Ooh,
We've implemented the Broadmoor and Sea Island
Sea
suite.
Islands, yes.
And we have also taken the what
Oh,
we used to call the officer suite and created an owner suite there. And I stayed in that officer suite on my last trip on the Surf. And it was a very nice suite. But what the team has done, and I want to recognize Jessica Payne, our
yes.
interior.
We're interviewing her soon.
She is incredible.
Phenomenal.
I mean, everywhere you look, you can see the purpose, how the colors are
The
working, the
patterns.
patterns, the designs. I was thinking such an incredible talent with Jessica
Yes.
that I could never do this,
No.
right? I mean, I generally tell the team, please don't give me any color choices because it's usually wrong what I do. But Jessica and her team have done a great job. And so in those suites, we have now, of course, our affiliation to Broadmoor and Sea Island
Mhm.
on the windsurf. And we have that officer suite now created into an owner suite. It's actually a little larger. And it's beautiful.
It
It's
is.
beautiful. And there's similar furniture and color patterns as we're going to have also on the Star Seeker, which comes at the end of this year in 25, right?
Yes, yes.
So I was thoroughly impressed. Captain Marin runs a really good ship. We've spent half a day on talking about various things. They have got such a great handle on it. But one of the spaces I wanted to just stop for a moment is Amphora.
Okay.
For those guests who've sailed,
And that's our main dining restaurant.
main
For those
dining,
guests who don't know,
yeah.
Amphora.
For those guests who've sailed on our surf and were dining, of course, in Amphora, it's completely reimagined. We now have daylight in
Beautiful.
in the Amphora.
And we'll show pictures while you're talking because I
Yeah.
think that was phenomenal that now we actually can
And
see
a
the portholes.
beautiful centerpiece there, and the coves which have been created, and the tables and comfy. I mean, we were having a meeting in there, looking at plants, and I'm sitting in the chair. I'm like, this is very comfortable here, and it was
Love it.
just so good, and really enjoyed that visit. I have to say, it was great.
Amazing. Love it. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the section where I'm going to grab my glasses because I have to check my phone.
Okay.
And so thank you very much for inspiring me to finally get glasses, Chris.
Yes.
'Cause, I wouldn't be wearing glasses if it was not for this gentleman here, because I was blind when I started Windstar, and I would actually look at my phone and I would have to increase the font size. So thank you for allowing me to look cool.
Yes.
Glasses.
Great.
Yes, and so I like your glasses too, and I'm sure for those of you who know Chris know that he can wear a really cool pair of glasses when you do see him. So we have our Yacht Club members. We have a Facebook group that we've just launched.
Yes.
And our Yacht Club members, as you know, they're very vocal. They're so passionate about our brands. And I wanted to make sure to cover the questions they had for you.
Okay.
Number one question asked. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
So we have 2 new exciting ships coming out. And they all want to know, they're super excited about the 2 new ships, but they all want to know, is Windstar going to ever build a new sailboat?
Wow, that's a great question. It's absolutely the number one question I also get when I'm on board and say, when are you going to get a new sailboat?
Mm-hmm.
All I can tell you is I'm working hard on it. And it is something we're looking, and I was just mentioning earlier, we're looking at plans, right? So there's nothing concrete just yet.
Okay.
But I will tell you that it would be an exciting project to take on. So no question.
But I will say our existing fleet, the Wind class fleet, the Wind Spirit, the Windstar, and the Windsurf are absolutely spectacular. We're investing a lot of money to make sure that they're gleaming like new.
And that's very true, because the next question I usually get is like, what are you doing with the existing ships? Are they going to stick around?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make it very clear that our ownership absolutely wants those ships to continue to sail. So
Yes.
there are no plans of anything to do other than sailing with our sail ships either.
Yes.
So that's really important for our listeners and guests to hear.
Yes, and the sailboat experience is phenomenal because the allure of the sail ships, but I also love our yacht experience, and the Star Seeker and the Star Explorer are set to be two phenomenal ships that we're going to be accepting delivery. So everyone wants to know, would you devour, because they're all guessing on the Star Explorer, so they're excited about our Star Seeker new itineraries in Asia and Alaska, but would you spill the tea, like they like to say, on the Star Explorer? What are we thinking about with the Star Explorer? What are we going to do and where are we going to put that ship?
Well, the Star Explorer is going to be, I think, announced very soon,
Very
right?
soon.
And she will be in, obviously coming out in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we're going to leave her there
Yes.
for a little bit. And there's a bit of a shift between Legend and Explorer. So I think you will do again a winter med season. I think that product really is ramping up. We're
Yes.
getting lots of positive feedback, as
We
you know,
are.
that is such a great destination. And I just thought about that actually last weekend when I was going to the Caribbean into St. Martin, where there's a lot of people, right? Because right now is high season for the
Right.
Caribbean. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of traffic and a lot of, just from the
The
ports
airfare.
just from the ports to the airport, you drive with the car such a long time because it's just one long line of people trying to
Oh,
get
wow.
to and from the airport. So it's busy because
Yeah.
the season. And then you think about our Star Legend currently. She's sailing in the Med.
Which I
And
just went, by the
yes,
way, again.
and in many of the port, it's the only ship in there.
Yes.
And everyone in the area is so happy that we are there. And there's no question in my mind, and our guests are confirming it.
Yes.
It's the highest rated ship from a guest satisfaction perspective because it works so beautifully. So off-season travel is absolutely on the rise. And I think Star Explorer will really help us to grow that because, of course, with Seeker going to Asia, Alaska, and all these places, a little bit of a reshuffle on our expansion will be really good.
Yes. So make sure you do sign up for emails. Make sure you do join our Facebook group because I will tell you as soon as we open up for booking for the Star Explorer, you will be the first to know if you follow us on Facebook and you've joined this group or you're signed up for emails. Now, Sharon is a solo traveler. I had a lot of solo travelers that actually say hello.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to know, what are we doing to appeal to this market? As a solo traveler, when they come on board, why should they join Windstar? There's a lot of cruise lines that are doing special things for solo travelers, like staterooms, etc. But what is Windstar doing to attract this?
Well, here's what I would say. First of all, solo travel is on the rise too. We know this. And yes, we are doing, all the very special things of, having cruises with discounts and or reduced solo travel rates. But why should they come to Windstar is very simple because at Windstar as a solo traveler, you will be part of the Windstar family. And the family is, it's not like that we are creating events for solo travel.
Right.
We're creating events for our guests, and you will be part of a big group. And I think what our solo travelers at Windstar really enjoy is just being part of, you're on day one, you'll have so many friends. You'll never be alone on a Windstar ship. And I hear that often from our guests that they enjoy it because of the atmosphere, the camaraderie, the dining options and so on. It really works very well for solo travel.
And our crew does a phenomenal job taking care of our solo travelers as well. I know I've seen them many times. They'll be invited to have dinner with our crew member. And so it is exciting. I know for, overall, it's not only solo travelers on the rise, but just, either friends, traveling together. And so you don't necessarily have to get a stateroom on your own or you can share. So
exactly.
I do think it's, what a wonderful era we live in that whether you're a male or female, that you can travel the world and you don't have to be with a significant other, that you can actually do it on your own.
And you will always be part of that family feel. You will never feel excluded in a way. And that's true because the crew, it's just normal for them to treat everyone the same way and bring people together and hosting tables or games being played or doing excursions together. It's like you're always part of that group. So it's
And it's the
perfect for them.
safest way to travel, I would say.
Well, exactly.
Because we know when you're on board and we know when you're not on board, and we'll go looking for you if you don't come back.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, lots of questions also, Chris, on just really what are the new destinations that you're most excited about for our Yacht Club members? Because they've kind of been there and done that. So, what destinations are you most excited about these days?
Yes.
Other
So,
than Tahiti.
yes, I was just saying, hey, you can go to Tahiti now or soon, and you can see a Windstar ship from a Windstar ship. That's something cool.
Yes.
But most excited, and actually just yesterday met some guests on the surf, Alaska and Japan.
Yes.
And that is really, and those guys actually booked a Japan cruise yesterday. CK is very popular for those cruises. Southeast Asia, we're
Yes.
bringing
We
back,
just opened for booking
and that is going really well.
really well.
And then, of course, even the crossings from Alaska to Japan are picking up really nicely. And I think our guests really want to see those new destinations on the Sika. But there's another one where I'm really excited about, and it's the Canary Islands.
Yes.
We just had a President's Cruise earlier last year, and we sailed the Canary Isles. And I can only say that's the Hawaii of Europe.
It is.
And it's so beautiful. And there's direct flights from New York now. Putting a sail ship there for the winter to explore the Canary Islands, and you have to think about Gran Canaria, you have to think about Madeira, Funchal, those beautiful, rich
Yes.
cultural islands. The food, the wine, the culture, the people there is phenomenal. I believe all our Windstar guests should see that because it's just really new and exciting. And it's perfect climate too, by the way, because it's not scalding hot. It's
Right.
certainly not cold either, but it's great for exploring. And you can do so many things. I mean, I went up to a volcano, right? And we had this beautiful lunch up there. And we were, brought to the crater. And then you go down, and we will be, getting into the bus and would go down to Gran Canary as well. So you can see everything from volcanoes to the black sandy beaches,
Beautiful.
and you can ride a camel, right? And so
That's cool.
that
That was my favorite, actually.
yeah,
riding
and
a
there's so
camel.
much
So
to
cool.
do, right? And we went for a wine tasting, and we went for a traditional Tenerife barbecue where they put everything on a spit and roll it. So it's just really, really interesting. It's something completely new for our guests, which we haven't had
Yes.
before.
Okay, last two questions that I've asked everyone because we're coming up to the end of the episode, and that is, what is your next cruise? My first question.
Okay.
Where are you going next?
Okay. Yes, I'm going next on the cruise. It's a mystery.
Ooh,
Yes, because
that's right.
yes.
That you don't know where we're going.
Exactly. And so there's a mystery cruise coming up for Windstar where we actually have a lot of our club members on board.
I am so excited for this cruise.
I'm really excited for this cruise
You
too.
can't be more excited than
Yeah,
me.
because I actually don't know where the ship is going. I mean, I know I'm joining in Athens and I leave in Athens. And so it was, we'll see. But the team has done apparently a really good job
Phenomenal job.
planning it all out. And I have some ideas where we go, but I don't know because you kept it really a secret from me.
So for those listening in, I want to explain to you all, there is a President's Mystery Cruise that by the time this airs, is probably going to be just a few weeks away. But I absolutely encourage you, if there's a stateroom remaining, please book this cruise because
Yes.
it is not about where you're going, it's about who you're going with. And some of our most beloved Yacht Club members have decided to join us on this crazy adventure of not knowing where to go other than it's a round trip out of Athens.
Exactly.
Yes. And yes, our president does have no idea where we're going. And it's just going to be an exciting time because, I feel as if we have one of the most phenomenal team curating our shore excursions. And I think I highly recommend for you, if you're sailing with Windstar, to please select our shore excursions because they're highly curated. They work with local tour operators to select the best and a great variety of choices. And so we do have some amazing shore excursions that will really highlight the beautiful places that we're about to embark on
Yeah.
and visit. So I'm very excited about that.
Yes, and there's lots of new ports apparently, which I also don't know which new ports that are, but
No
there
idea what you're talking about.
it's really really cool. I'm poking you a little bit so
Nope,
to give
no
you some
idea.
yeah.
Nope. I'm not releasing any information. I will not confirm or deny there's a new ports. But final question. So we have a lot of listeners that have never sailed with Windstar. And if you had to recommend their first cruise, first itinerary, which one would that be?
Well, we talked a lot about Tahiti, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is new itineraries we are doing in Tahiti too. So for those guests who've been in Tahiti and say, "Well, I'm not going to do it again," there's new Tahiti content
Yes.
out there. So yes, you should do it again. But I think really for our new guests, check out our Mediterranean itineraries because now we're really there year round. And that allows you to really pick the right time frame you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Europe is always very special. It allows you to explore so many different countries. And, we've had some influencers on board and I met them. And they were saying, oh my God, I can't believe I'm 7 days on board and I've seen 5 countries.
Yes.
And comfort and style. And, at the ease of the fingertips, everything was available. And that can't be, pronounced enough because it really is simple. So Europe, when you're not quite sure where you want to go, well, pick a European cruise because you're basically going everywhere. And that's a great way to get into cruising and really explore some countries too. That's what I would say. But if you're not sure about that, go to Tahiti because you're gonna fall in love, and it's really my favorite destination.
Yes. You cannot fall in love with Windstar or Tahiti if you don't do it together, I say.
Exactly, exactly.
But I will tell you all that we have arrived to the end of our podcast, unfortunately, but this will not be the last time that Chris will be joining us. But I cannot end the podcast without telling you all to make sure to please follow Chris because I'm sure you've loved hearing from him, but this doesn't have to be the last time you see him. You are an influencer now.
Yeah.
And you have your own Instagram handle. So please, we will put the handle as well on the comment section so that you all have Chris's handle. You can follow him and he is very active on social media and he will share with you all secrets, right? You don't keep secrets from your followers.
No, not at all. And sometimes the social media team isn't quite as happy with me sharing certain things, but it's always fun. I enjoy sharing. I just did load up some content for the windsurf, and we created a reel for this podcast. So I'm gonna do a reel on a podcast because I think that's cool.
Yes.
And no, and it's in a way, it's such an easy way to engage with our guests too. And what I would say is one of the things I also do is if you send me an email or a note on Instagram or what have you, will always respond to it.
Yes.
To me, it's really important to engage with our guests or crew.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm also happy to engage
Yes.
on the Instagram platform.
I love it. I am trying to get him on Facebook, working on
Yes,
that. That may
yes.
happen soon. We'll see.
Yes, stay tuned for that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. And we will see you all in our next episode at Winds of Change. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.